Well, hi, everybody. Thomas Miller along with Jenny Geyer. Hello, Jenny Geyer.
Hello, Thomas Miller.
This is what, our fourth now Moon to
We're going
Sun
strong.
Moon to Sun weekly forecast. Yeah. So this is a big week. I mean, we have got a lot going on, so we are going to cut the chatter and get right into it.
That's right. Yeah. So I keep thinking we're going to get a little bit of a break, but no, the energies are coming in hot and strong.
Big
And
time.
this week is no different than what we've been seeing, but it's a different flavor at least. We have a couple of big things happening that are going to color the energies of the week for beginning of June. And so first I want to just briefly mention that we had a very big transit happen just the other day. This was Sunday. We had Jupiter coming into a trine with Pluto. These are two heavy hitters in the chart right now and will continue to be as Pluto comes in and out of Aquarius over the next year, and Jupiter, as I mentioned before, is going to be in Gemini until next June. So these energies are going to be playing off each other multiple times throughout the next year. So it's good to pay attention right now to see what's coming through and coming up for you, because this is going to be a repeated energy that we feel. And when I talk about Jupiter and Pluto, and this is a flowing energy, it's a trine, so it's a positive, supportive energy between these planets. And to me, what they're saying, the conversation that they're having, they're wanting us to have with ourselves is, when you speak, are you invested in your own message? Our words have power. They have power how we think them to ourselves and how we speak them out loud. They're like magical incantations, and they can't be taken back. So when Pluto and Jupiter are talking from these air signs, it's telling us to really consider deeply the words that you're saying to yourself, and also to think about how your words are being perceived by other people. There is a lot of power behind your words again, and people will listen to you, and you might be surprised sometimes by how deeply people are actually listening to your words. And that's important to pay attention to what you're saying, and also to recognize that people are really wanting to be heard right now. People are feeling this power move through them, and they have important messages. People are wanting to take a stand, and you might be feeling compelled to take a stand right now. So just think carefully about how your words are coming across.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing that we pointed out last week on the podcast was that, and of course, being two slow mover planets, this will be with us for a while. And Jupiter will start moving into, and we're not going to touch on that today, but it starts to move into that 3 times square with Saturn between August of this year and June of next year. So a lot of action right now with Jupiter and other outer planets.
Not hard to expect that Jupiter has a lot to say in Gemini this year.
Yeah, it's going to be it is going to be an impactful year, no question.
So then the other big energy of the week is also as we see Mercury moving into Gemini, his home sign. So anytime a planet ingresses, moves into a new sign, this is usually a very strong energy that's felt across the board. And it's good to pay attention if you know where Gemini is in your chart, to see what might be coming through for you in that area of your life. And Mercury is the planet. I consider him to be the patron saint of astrologers, and that's because he's trying to help us to interpret the language of the gods, right, the cosmos, and he's doing that by bringing us information through in ways that we can digest it. Astrology is one of those ways. It's a map to understanding these energies and how to use them in a pragmatic, everyday way.
And of course, his home. And now we have the Sun, Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury all in Gemini.
Yes. In Gemini, it's important to remember that we hear the phrase double-bodied or mutable associated with the sign of Gemini. And what that really means to me anyway, especially with Gemini being about communication, it's an air sign. It's about how, everyone around us, people in our lives are all mirrors for each other. So it's important. Are you hearing yourself when you speak? Are you thinking about how you're coming across to somebody else? Again, this is a repeat of similar kind of energies, what I explained with Jupiter and Pluto. So it's just make sure that your words are really aligned with your own values and philosophies, because people will be able to hear if it's not.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of power behind those words right now. And they can be good words because the benefics are in there.
Yeah. So, be the observer to your own life and think about how you think and how you speak.
Yeah, exactly. Would be a good time to do more observing than speaking, which that's really good all the time, I think. But,
That's
but
good
you could
advice
get a little overindulgent with your words. That's the
for
thing is
sure.
if the other person is sitting there going like this, you might kind of be sensitive to that.
What are you trying to say, Thomas? Yeah, and this is why it's good to take, to get a practice of self-inquiry, take inventory of what you're thinking and what you're feeling and journal, if you don't have a very sympathetic friend who will listen to you ramble on and on and on.
Yeah, exactly.
Write it down.
Don't be that person right now because it could get out of hand with Jupiter. All right, what's next?
Okay, so then another big energy that's coming through this week is Venus making contact with the sun. This is called a cazimi, and she's slowly been moving towards this contact for a while, and she's going to be in this energy pretty much through the middle of July. So this is, to me, can be felt maybe sometimes as an uncomfortable shift in our relationships, but it comes down to, a reevaluation of priorities and our values and how we see ourselves in the context of our relationships. And again, check your chart if you know it, your natal chart, to see where Gemini is, because these are that area of your life, the relationships related to that area of your life is really where it's focusing in on this energy. And it's about a process of illumination, revealing to us, how do we respect our own limitations and boundaries in our relationships? Do we feel like our relationships have become burdensome in some way? And if so, how much of that is on us? How much are we letting that take advantage of our energy, by not really being present in those relationships entirely? So just, keep an eye out for where you might be feeling drained, and in particular with relationships. Sorry, Thomas, do you want to say something?
No, I'm good. I'm tracking right there with you.
Okay.
I think that's a perfect interpretation of this. And of course, Venus is going to make a very fast track through Gemini. So we don't have a lot of time for this one to bake. But there is one little thing that crosses my mind whenever I think of Gemini or Sagittarius or Pisces. Always go to the divided sign. And you're always looking for more than one kind of characteristic item thing going on. And I just wonder that kind of like what's going on with the sun and these solar flares and everything that I've been following so closely. If a relationship is otherwise fractured, Gemini is a divided sign. And it could be that this applying and striking the sun, if a relationship is not at its peak, and it may be one that it just is time and it needs to move on, well, this could be a time that gets triggered.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not just relationships with other people. That's also your relationship with yourself. Sometimes we can become kind of splintered versions of ourselves because our energy is so scattered. And that's another kind of, sometimes a challenge with Jupiter in Gemini, is that we can kind of lose track of our own energies and our own mental processes because we're just everywhere all at once, and forget to kind of hone in on, ourselves and really get back to base.
Yeah, exactly. But otherwise, should be a really good stretch here while we have all four of those planets in Gemini. This is I love this. Being a Gemini rising, that is just,
very stimulating, very, mental energy, just a lot of mental excitement. I think of like I'm putting my notes, like a Labrador retriever, when somebody new comes over to the house and you kind of have to hold him back because he just wants to smell all the smells and, get all the pets. And what is all this about? I think that's kind of energy coming through for a lot of us, and it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's good. It's all good. It really is. I just say, sometimes these things can, break a stick that needs to be broken anyway, or that's otherwise fractured. So just be aware of that too.
And then, of course, we would be remiss to not speak about the big new moon that's happening in Gemini. Again, we have more Gemini activations happening. And this moon is very activated because it's not only a new moon, which is already pretty intense, but it's trining Pluto. And Jupiter is still in the orb of that trine with Pluto. We have it also, Venus coming through and hitting the same degree as that new moon too. So we have this new moon that's very activated with all these other planets and energies. And to me, this is saying, it's important to, again, establish boundaries for yourself. And this may require, some isolation. There might be a need for you to kind of take a step back and take some time for yourself. Be alone, which sounds, counterintuitive to when you think about Gemini being about relationships. But again, we're talking about our relationship with ourself being primary and really being at the foundation of how we build relationships with others. So checking in with yourself and making sure that your relationship with yourself is on solid ground before you go out and bring your energy to your relationships with other people. I think that's what this new moon is really about.
Our dear friend Robert Glasscock likes to say that Pluto is 3 times the energy or the strength of Mars. And when you think about creating power, creating ability, and new moons as the beginning of the lunar cycle and Book of the Moon, it's putting all the plugs in here, but that's what Steve Forrest talks about in the whole book, is about the new moon as the beginning point of the 8 phases of the lunar cycle up to full moon. That's the peak or the culmination. Then we start to wane back down toward the new moon. And this new moon has all this supercharged power. Now, power in somebody's hands can be wielded one of 2 ways, right? So for people that are trying to live their highest timeline life, I think this is going to be a wonderful new moon, especially to use the theme of Pluto moving itself back to Capricorn. Take a look at your life from a standpoint of what could I eliminate here, or what could I transform? What could I shift that would just make a radically huge difference? And there's a lot of cosmic support for that.
Yeah. And sometimes it can be as simple as, just the very structure of how you speak to yourself and your own, mental processes, how you're perceiving your world. And that being the springboard for how you approach your world, and how you interact with others. So again, this idea of taking good care of yourself and making that primary before you go into a conversation, or what state of mind, ask yourself, what state of mind am I in right now? Am I coming through the way I intend to come through? Is this person looking at me like I'm crazy? And start listening to yourself and really evaluating, are you aligned? Is your voice aligned with your heart, with your mind, and with the situation, your environment?
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to this one. I'm going to be working on a lot of deep stuff for my own self. And I've been absorbing myself into Catherine Ponder's affirmations lately, because I don't know, there's just a ring to them. There's a magic to some of hers. Some don't stand out, but some of them just are like, wow. So I've been just right there with exactly what you said. Shifting
Affirmations are a great thing to start. If that's not a practice you already have, highly recommend it. I know it sounds a little cheesy if that's not your thing, but it really does make a difference. I just trigger something in your brain that just makes you think, like reprogramming. It's kind of like self-hypnosis in a way, but in a positive way.
I was looking through some of her stuff just to kind of see what else she had out there, and if she had any audio stuff at all. And there's not much. I mean, some people have read her books, and I can't play them in my ears, sadly. But somebody said about her book, Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, I became a millionaire through the principles I learned in this book. And actually, she said multimillionaire. And you think of Louise Hay is another one that a lot of people love her affirmations. And look what it did for her. I mean, she built her whole empire.
Again, power of
by
words.
programming her mind. See, and to me, that's the kind of juice that we have coming up here on this Thursday with this new moon. Is going to be amazing.
Keep your journal handy. And that kind of actually flows really well into the next aspect that I had that I wanted to bring up, which is the sun is squaring Pisces and Venus is also squaring Pisces. And these are 2 energies coming through over the weekend. So this is Venus is going to square Saturn in Pisces on the 8th and then we have that's Saturday, right? Yeah. And then we have the sun doing the same the next day. So for me, I'm kind of blending both of these interactions with a similar sort of message that I think is coming through, which is about, you know, giving yourself the restorative kind of rest that is needed to be able to process whatever is going on for you mentally right now, because it is a lot. And because it's Pisces and it's kind of a place of where we consider like where the unconscious mind rests, this is going to be a really important time to get good sleep and keep a journal handy, because whatever is coming through for you, you know, during the REM cycle that we have in this energy exchange, I think has an important message for us. And I think it's important to give attention to the unconscious mind, because, you know, it's doing a lot of work underground that we don't see during our day to day. It's the engine, but it's like the rudder of a boat. It's doing all the work, but it's underwater. You can't see it, but it's really what's giving us forward momentum in our daily conscious lives. So, you know, get good sleep. And again, I say keep a journal handy if you're able to remember your dreams. Like, don't immediately wake up and reach for your phone if you can help it. But stay with whatever was coming through for you right before you opened your eyes, and really dig into that space if you can. If you're not somebody who ever remembers their dreams, this is like, I feel bad for people because I have such vivid dreams and I love it. But give yourself time to space out and daydream during the day, you know, and to see where your mind takes you, because that's also a little bit of your unconscious coming through.
Yeah, definitely. And as you're saying that, I'm just thinking back to a couple of days prior, because Pluto also rules the unconscious, and the moon is our unconscious, subconscious, internal side too. So this is between Thursday and then Sunday. You're exactly right. There is a lot of unconscious processing and work being played out here. And I mean, Jupiter has already left this obviously last Sunday, but you still have the lingering effects of that trine from Jupiter too.
Yeah. It's just
So
kind of
yeah,
like,
big dreams.
yeah. And I mean, I hate to hammer on about this because I know it's just like, okay, we get it. The Jupiter Uranus conjunction, it was a tectonic shift, you know, of the earth plates moving. And then it's like, you know, under the seabed, and then like the water's moving. And then at the surface, you have a tsunami. And it's like, it's all kind of coming together, but there's like this really deep, watery space where things are also shifting. And, you know, that's going to reflect in our daily lives on the surface as well.
Yeah, we're only how far apart? Well, let's see, 24 9. So we're just still within a conjunction by a degree or so. But that still is considered a conjunction. You're absolutely right. That was the Big Bang.
Yeah, that was the earthquake moment, but there's still all these reverberations of it,
Of,
and that will be true for most of the year.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. How do you sum the week up overall?
So I know this is, we're not going to talk about it yet, but there was another ingress this week that's happening. That's Mars moving into Taurus. That's not happening till Sunday, so we'll talk about that in more detail next week. But I wrote down that this is a week to tap the brakes. It's a road trip, not a race. With Mars and Aries, you know, he's very comfortable there, and Mars is naturally kind of a get up and go, you know, energy. But in Taurus, he's going to be a little bit lazier. So my advice for this week is to really take advantage of this last little oomph, you know, that little burst of energy that we still have in our engine from Mars being in its happy place in Aries, where it's very, you know, fiery and ambitious and driven and, you know, powerful. Because he's going to feel a little bit slower once he moves into Taurus. And, you know, that principle that gets us to get up and go is going to feel a little bit more lackadaisical. So yeah, but don't rush yourself just because you're feeling that. Remember that, you know, in next week, it's going to feel very different. So take your time. And if you're feeling rushed, ask yourself why. Is there actually a rush? Do I actually need to hurry this? Or is it just, you know, I'm feeling some deep compulsion to move more quickly? And this is true for me. I have a lot of Mars, a lot of Aries in my chart. So I have to ask myself this a lot, you know, what's the rush? Where's the race? You know, where's the fire? So, you know, take the time, give yourself time, however much time you need. And if you feel like you're, you know, anxious and rushed, ask yourself, is this necessary?
I'm curious, because you do have so much fire in your chart. How has this 6 week or so Mars transit through Aries been for you?
I mean, I've definitely felt again that rush feeling like, and this is a normal state for me, but it's been like extra this last month. But I've been taking time because I learned, from the Mercury retrograde and on Mercury in Taurus, a similar kind of thing where it's like, do I really need to hurry this, or can I just take my time and enjoy the moment? Like, these are good things to kind of counteract that energy that I try to be conscious of. I study astrology for a reason because it does help me really to be able to track my own energy and to question it and to change it if I don't like it. If there's some part that's coming through and I'm like, this is uncomfortable, I don't like what's happening here. How can I shift this? And then I kind of look to the planets and see where they're at and kind of figure out for myself, well, what needs to be turned down and what needs to be turned up more. And sometimes you got to turn up the Taurus energy and turn down the Aries energy because you need to be able to stop and smell the roses every now and then and give yourself a break.
So how would you anticipate the shift for you from Aries Mars to Taurus Mars?
I'm kind of looking forward to it because to me, Mars in Taurus is like, you know what? I'm going to sleep in an extra 15 minutes and I don't even care. I get up and
Get a break.
the first thing I do is I put on my running clothes and I, bolt out the door and I literally go sprint. But I think, this Mars in Taurus, I might just, have an extra cup of coffee in bed and maybe slowly roll out of bed and put on my clothes to go running. But maybe I'll run at a slower pace. It's just going to be a slight shift. It's probably, it's good to change things up.
I'm going to make a little note to check in with you in 2 weeks and see how that's going.
Appreciate that. I need an accountability partner. This is good.
All right. Well, you got it. All right. I'm going to keep you. This will be fun. We'll have the tracking Jenny through Taurus.
How long can she sit still this month?
How's it going? All right. Good deal. Do you have a card for us today?
Oh, I do. Yes. So that takes me to the card of the week that I picked out is the 10 of Wands. So for those who aren't into tarot, the wands are associated with fire. And as you can see, this guy looks like he's not having the best time. He's got this heavy load he's carrying. It's kind of awkward. And he's got a big hill he's got to go up. So when I think about fire energy, I think of like creative things that make us feel alive. Projects and people and ideas that really just excite us. And sometimes it becomes a little too easy to say yes or to try to take on too many of these kinds of projects or ideas, and it becomes burdensome. So like this thing that seemed really fun and exciting at the beginning might suddenly now feel like, oh God, I'm exhausted. I don't even want to think about this anymore. And fire energy, it doesn't always have the best focus. So it can be easy to kind of like get bored or just, lose that excitement just as quickly as it came. So I want to read again from this book. I read from it last week. This is Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, a tarot journey to self-awareness. And I love this book because it's got some great life advice and they're all kind of attached to obviously the archetypes and the cards. So I'll read about the 10 of Wands now. So she says, the 10 shows us on the surface an image of a person burdened and oppressed by life and especially by responsibility. His wand's eagerness has involved him in so many situations that now, paradoxically, that very energy is weighed down with commitments and problems. He wants to be free to travel, to seek adventure and new involvements, but instead he finds himself caught in a net of endless responsibilities, financial, family, work that he himself has created. He did not plan this. It has grown up around him. And this is the great wand's problem. The fire energy acts without thinking, takes on new problems simply for the challenge. But these situations and responsibilities do not go away when the person becomes bored and wants to go on to something new. They remain and can swamp the fire that seemed to conquer them. In emotional situations, the card shows us the person who takes on himself or herself all the weight of a relationship. Whatever problems arise, conflicts and dissatisfaction, he or she tries to smooth them over. With bent back, she or he struggles to keep the relationship going while the other person may not even recognize what's happening. In both the practical and the emotional situation, the person has taken the burdens on her or himself. He or she has made the situation and needs to realize that other approaches are still possible. In such situations, the burdens may not be wholly real or at least may be avoided. They may, in fact, serve as an excuse to avoid doing anything really constructive, such as breaking away from a bad situation. I feel like that ties nicely with the themes we were talking about.
It sure does. Yeah, perfect. It's amazing when you draw cards and they just fit the energy of the space that you're in. It's like that might have not been reflective of the day that you were having when you drew that card, but it was reflective of the material that you were putting together. And it's like, yeah, you get this incredible match.
Yeah. So all that to keep in mind this week, and really, again, pay attention to your thoughts and where your mind's taking you, and keep a journal handy.
Good. You've given us a great outlook so that we can plan and anticipate, get our journals out, and approach this week with gusto and caution at the same time.
Yes.
All right. Good deal. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Thomas.
Have a wonderful week.